Okay, well, hello everybody. I wanted to do a little follow-up video of my experiences with the Nikon D50 camera since I converted it to full spectrum, and it's definitely been interesting, and it does help. Um, this first picture here that I've got shown up, I've got them opened up in GIMP. That's a nice free program you can use to edit your pictures. Um, I shot this of the North American Nebula and a little bit of the Pelican Nebula up there too with a vintage 300 millimeter camera lens. I had it on ISO 400 at 5-minute exposures, and I don't remember the exact amount of time, but I think there's a couple hours worth of stuff. And I did dark frames, and I did flats and bias frames. And one of the first things you might notice, look at how solid white all the stars are. This is one of the effects of not having any kind of UV-IR cut filter. So right now I did this with no filter at all since I removed the internal filter. And so the stars get bloated out. Now I decided as an experiment, since I have two of these cameras because they're so inexpensive, I've got like one of them I paid like $50 for just the camera body, and the other one I think I paid maybe $75, and it came with a couple of camera lenses. Of course, now it's considered a vintage camera. This thing's from back in the days of Windows XP. I think it was from around, I'm guessing 2006. I don't remember the exact date. So here's my little experiment I did. And what I did was I used a program called StarNet to remove the stars, and then I did some processing to clean up the background and everything to try to just concentrate on the nebula and not worry about the stars getting great big. And then I had also taken pictures of the same object with my stock camera using considerably shorter exposures and just going after the stars really. And see if I can zoom in a little bit here. You can see the stars aren't solid white, and of course they aren't nearly as big. And depending on what you're photographing, you'll get a lot of multicolored stars. You can get some blue and yellow and red and what have you. So that really helps. Now here's a picture. This one was with my stock camera before I did the conversion. This is using a 200 millimeter camera lens, but it's the same area of the sky. There's your North American Nebula down there. And the Pelican's supposed to be up here. And the North American was fairly easy to get. Now I did a lot of playing with processing with this image before I got it to get some contrast. So it was just experimental, and if I tried to do it again from scratch, I don't even know if I'd get it again. That'd look the same. But so you can get some images with the stock camera, but it's a lot easier to get the nebulosity of these red objects with a converted camera. Now all the experts will tell you you should use a special filter of some sort, either get a UV-IR cut filter that is actually designed for astronomy, because the stock one that was built into the camera, since it was made for general photography, they were figuring mostly daytime photography and getting your colors to look correct. And if the astro filter is going to be designed to get as much of the hydrogen alpha and stuff like that in there, so if you took daytime pictures with it, your colors would look really weird. So when you do this, you have to learn to do some color balancing and stuff, because they do turn out different. They start off looking really red. Matter of fact, I can show you one real quick here. So what we have here is an unprocessed, unstretched picture of the Pac-Man Nebula, and this was with no filter, and I took this picture through a 6-inch Newtonian camera with my full spectrum camera. So I'm going to play around with the levels here. I'll stretch it. I think I'll do a video sometime to kind of explain what I've learned about GIMP and that. As you can see, I just made everything turn bright red. But this is also what my pictures looked like initially when I first started taking pictures after I converted it, especially if I had it set for like a JPEG on fine quality instead of raw. These pictures here are at raw quality, which allows you to do a lot more. Of course, it means you have to process each image too. But for astronomy and stuff, that's really a good thing, because most of the time they need it. So now I'm starting to bring up the nebula. And as you can see, you have to get over the shock of seeing all the bright red and realize you can get rid of that nasty background. Okay, so the nebula there in the middle is starting to come up. All this bright red over here is noise that's either from light, maybe like that part of the sky was a little brighter, or maybe more likely was just some heat building up inside the camera over a period of time, and that thermal noise starts to show up in long exposures. So I'll get this here so we can just see it a little better. So you can see with this starless version that I made, I don't know if I'd mentioned, I removed the stars with a program called StarNet. I think I'll do a video on that sometime. And then if I took the time, I could clean up this background, even if I had to airbrush it out, or I could make a mask. So it can get better, but you definitely have to learn some tricks of the trade. Now, most of the pictures I've actually been taking since I've done this conversion have been daytime pictures. I started learning to do infrared because, you know, since this isn't specifically an astronomy camera, I play around with it in the daytime too, and that's something to think about if you convert a camera, because it will change the way things look. Now this here is in infrared with a infrared filter. It's 950 nanometers, which basically that means it's way over in the infrared and it doesn't let any visible light in. So this is all light that the human eye doesn't see. And if you notice, the trees start turning white. And a lot of times they'll turn as white as snow. Just depends on how much exposure you give it. But I've been having fun learning to do the infrared stuff. And I'll show you another picture here. Now this one here is a picture I took just a few days ago. This was with no filter at all. And I played around with it to get the sky to start to look blue. And you can see it's not truly blue. If I get it to look really blue, then everything turns real blue. But one of the things I wanted to show you is even if you start balancing out your colors with a full spectrum camera during the daytime with no filter at all, your trees don't get green. I took this picture recently here in October. So there is a little bit, the trees are changing color, but they're nothing like this. They're still 90% green, I would say. And I just really played around with the colors on this, and then the clouds started turning yellow. I thought that was just an interesting effect, so I saved that picture. So here's another infrared one I took just the other day, and I'll show you what happens if you try to get your colors back. Now this is, like I say, this is with an infrared filter, so I'm going to go down here to auto white balance, and it actually turns it into black and white. I thought this ended up being a cool picture. I set the camera on a tripod and took like 50 pictures to get the clouds blowing across the sky. The wind was blowing about 25 miles an hour. So as you can see, you can end up doing a lot of interesting photography with a camera once you change it, but you need to realize it's really going to affect your camera. The light meter really overexposes. Like on my camera, it might overexpose 2 or 3 f-stops, so I put it on manual and correct that. I look at the images on the preview viewfinder on the back of the camera, get the exposure where I like it, and then start taking my pictures. And like in this picture here, since you can't see through the infrared filter, I put it on a tripod and composed my picture, and then after I got it to where I liked it, I put the filter on and started taking pictures. Now you probably wonder, well, do I regret tearing my camera open, or am I okay with it? And I'm just fine with it, but part of that is because I used a very inexpensive camera. I've only got like $50 or so in the camera, and it was so cheap that I bought another one of the same model for a similar price. I might have paid $75 for one of them, because one of them came with a couple of lenses and the other was the camera body only. But I mean, if I had done this with a really expensive camera, and you do something like that, you want it to be a dedicated, specialized camera. So if I had done something like that, I might have really been wondering. And of course, if you watch my video of how to do this, when I did open up my camera the very first time I did it, I thought I had run to the camera within 5 minutes, but I decided, well, I might as well just keep doing the surgery and hope for the best, and it turned out I didn't hurt it at all. But anyway, I just wanted to kind of update on that a little bit, and hope you got a little enjoyment out of it. I certainly have.